Welcome to another episode of the Florida Retirement Podcast. I'm Kacey, and I'm here with financial advisor Murrell Winter, founder of SWAN Retirement Strategies in Sarasota, Florida. And he is here to help you map out your road to retirement. SwanStrategies.com is where you can find us if you are ready to get that conversation started, or all the info you need. It can always be found in our show notes. Always great to see you, Murrell. How are you this morning?
Doing great. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I love to hear it. Well, I want to get into it today and talk about the good old 401k. Let's get back to basics here. Now, you know, some people may be familiar with 401ks and their purpose, and for others, maybe they have heard that term, but they actually have no clue what it means. So, Murrell, can you break it down for us to start with and tell us what the basics of a 401k actually are?
Yeah, so actually, I am a nerd when it comes to history. So let's look at, in the past, what employers used to do. So employers used to provide these pension plans to where you would work for an employer for a certain number of years, and that's why you've probably heard of your parents or grandparents working for a single company for 30 years or 40 years and devoting their whole career to one company, and all of a sudden having this pension plan that was a guaranteed income stream for the rest of their life. It was a simpler way for people to not have the fear of the markets, and they could just live on their pension and enjoy their retirement the way they wanted to. But fast forward to the 70s and 80s, where they came around this plan where they said, hey, we want to go ahead and take the risk and take the burden off of these employers, and all of a sudden implement what's called a 401k plan. So these employers would transition from a pension plan to a 401k plan, where all the risk and all the responsibility is now on the participant, on the employee. So a 401k in general is a way for you to contribute a portion of your wages towards a certain retirement account that's in your name, right? And so when you're working there, that is your 401k plan. If you leave, it goes with you. But that's the thing. They have converted from these pension plans that were a great benefit now to 401k plans, where it can be very stressful for a lot of people.
Got it. Okay. So for me, I had definitely heard the term 401k before I got into the working world. I think maybe just from my parents growing up around the house. But when I got into the workforce and I actually had the opportunity to start contributing to my first 401k, I was kind of overwhelmed because there were different options. You had traditional, you had Roth. I honestly did not know the difference. I had to run back home to mom and dad and say, please help me. So Murrell, can you tell us about the differences there, traditional 401ks versus Roth?
Yeah, so when it comes to a traditional versus a Roth, you just have to understand that one is taxed differently than another. So traditional means that you are putting money in from your employer into that 401k plan, and you are not paying taxes up front. You are getting a tax savings up front, but what that causes is that traditional 401k plan is going to become taxable later down the road or in retirement. So in retirement, when you pull money out, you're going to cause taxes every time that you pull money out. And so that's something to keep in mind for a traditional 401k plan. Now, a Roth 401k, all that means is that you are paying the taxes up front. You're getting paid from your employer. You're paying taxes on that money. You're putting it into the Roth 401k. That money is growing tax-free for the rest of your life and for your beneficiaries. So if you have any questions about those two, I would highly recommend becoming an expert just to understand, hey, should I put my money into a traditional or into a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k? And if people have questions, they can also reach out to us.
Of course. All right. So I think a lot of times when we're talking about 401ks, we're thinking about those that are already retired or those that are like getting close to retirement. But I was reading a statistic that I wanted to get your thoughts on, because as a millennial myself, this statistic really shocked me. It was a study by Morningstar, and it found that 57% of millennials, along with their Gen X and Gen Z counterparts, are not participating in a defined contribution plan through their workplace, like a 401k. They want more take-home pay. They want their money and they want it now. So, Murrell, can you tell us what the benefits are of contributing to a 401k and why it's such a wise decision to take advantage if your employer is offering you one?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to the benefits of a 401k, you want to contribute as much as what your employer is going to match. And what I mean by that is if the employer is going to match 3% or 5% or 7% of your salary into that 401k plan, you want to match those dollars because you are getting free money. So let's say if you're making $100,000 and the match is 5%, you can put in $5,000 into your 401k plan and your employer is going to give you free money, $5,000 additional into your 401k plan. So that's a huge benefit. The second thing, and so that's what I call the match and out. So whatever your employer is matching and giving you that 5% or 7% or whatever it is, you want to hit that match, and then you want to get out of it, meaning that you don't want to add more money above that match. That's my opinion, because there's a lot of other investment options that are out there that are going to be much better than what's in your 401k plan.
Got it. Okay. So now we've got down the differences between our 401k options and why it's going to benefit us to contribute to one during our working years. Now, let's talk about the exciting part, taking that money out. So when is the money that I'm stashing away in my 401k during my career going to be available to me, and versus, when should I cash in?
Yep. So you have to keep in mind that this 401k plan is your bucket of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So you want to put that money away as a holy account. You want to put it into that holy account that you're not going to touch, that you're not going to look at, meaning that you're not going to interfere with the growth over the next 10, 20, 30 years until you turn 59 and a half or that you retire. So your question about when you can pull the money out, you really want to focus on this account as not an account that you're going to interrupt. You're going to let it continue to work for you and grow. If you do need to tap into it, many 401k plans allow you to take a loan. So you can take a loan out of it and to where you're going to pay back that loan into the 401k plan. So that is a possibility. I don't recommend it, but that is something that you could consider. The second thing is, when you retire, if you're 59 and a half or older, then you can access those funds without any penalty. You just want to understand what are going to be the tax implications if you do pull from those funds.
Okay, now you mentioned this earlier, but what happens to a 401k if I decide to leave my job?
Yeah. So if, people nowadays typically switch jobs about 7 times throughout their career. That's kind of on average over the past 5 years, 10 years. So if you're changing jobs 7 different times, you probably have these 401k plans from the past, meaning that you've probably put in $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 into these old 401k plans. You have 2 options. One, you can move that money into your own traditional IRA. And what that means is that you are putting the money from your old 401k plan into a new traditional IRA, which is going to be in your name. So you can move it into something like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, something like that. So then that money becomes yours in your name instead of an employer's 401k plan. That's one option, is moving it into your own account. Number 2, you can move it into your new 401k plan at your new employer. So let's say you move to a new job, they offer a 401k plan. You can absolutely move that old 401k plan to the new employer.
Got it. And now you mentioned you want to do the match and out. You want to contribute just as much as your employer is going to match and no more than that. But let's say I'm real ambitious and I want to just keep contributing. Is there a limit on how much I can contribute to my 401k?
Yep. So, and I love seeing the people that are that way. They're focused. They want to make sure, hey, this is my one account to make the most of it. So I'm going to do the maximum, right? And so for individuals, the maximum is somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000. And that's perfect amount. Maybe $2,000 a month that you're contributing into that 401k. That's going to grow very nicely over the next 5-10 years, right? So the other option is if you're over 50, so if you're 50 or over, you're now going to be able to have a catch up where instead of the $20,000 to $25,000 a year, you can now put $30,000 to $35,000 a year. And every year these numbers change. So you want to talk with your employer or talk with the 401k company and make sure that you're contributing the max if that's your goal.
All right. Now, last question before I let you go, Murrell. What if I inherit someone else's 401k?
Yeah. So when it comes to inheritance, you want to understand who are you inheriting this money from. So if you are married and your spouse passes away, you can use that 401k plan and move it to your own traditional IRA. And what that means, without getting complicated, if you have a spouse, that money between you and your spouse can then be treated as the same, meaning that your spouse passes away, you can now move that into your own retirement accounts. If you are inheriting it from someone else, like a parent or a child or, whoever you inherit it from, you are going to have to go by the tax rules, the IRS tax rules, and you might have to take out RMDs over the next 10 years, or you might have to take it out based on that person's age. So if that person, passed away at 80 and you're inheriting this account, you're going to have to take it out based on the parent's age and the IRS tax code.
Got it. All right. Well, now I know firsthand that all this information can be overwhelming, but that is what Murrell and his team are here to help with. So if you are ready to get those retirement conversations started, head to swanstrategies.com, or like I said, all the info you need is always posted in our show notes conveniently for you. Thanks for joining us here on the Florida Retirement Podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Murrell.
You're welcome.
We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of financial and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Investment advisory services offered through Second Half Partners LLC and SEC registered investment advisor number 163454. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Second Half Partners LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and/or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Murrell Winter, FL NPN 19081242.